Berdiri megah di kota pahlawan, menjadi wadah para insan juara. Merangkul semua kalangan, menciptakan kampus berbudaya, pelestari karya leluhur bangsa. Geliat toreh prestasi, kobarkan semangat juang kompetisi. Lahir dari basis kependidikan dan ilmu pengetahuan, Universitas Negeri Surabaya kini semakin mandiri dengan menyandang status perguruan tinggi berbadan hukum. Memiliki 5 kampus di Jawa Timur yang terintegrasi, UNESA siap menjangkau berbagai kalangan untuk dapat menempuh pendidikan tinggi. Kampus 1 UNESA berlokasi di Ketintang, Surabaya yang menjadi kampus tertua. Terdapat 6 gedung fakultas yang meliputi Fakultas Matematika dan Ilmu Pengetahuan Alam, Fakultas Teknik, Fakultas Ekonomika dan Bisnis, Fakultas Ilmu Sosial dan Ilmu Politik, Fakultas Hukum, serta Fakultas Vokasi. Kampus 2 UNESA berlokasi di Lidah Wetan, Surabaya, dengan 7 gedung utama, diantaranya Gedung Rektorat, Gedung Lembaga Pendidikan dan Sertifikasi Profesi, serta 5 gedung fakultas yang meliputi Fakultas Ilmu Pendidikan, Fakultas Bahasa dan Seni, Fakultas Ilmu Keolahragaan dan Kesehatan, Fakultas Kedokteran, Fakultas Psikologi, Pendidikan Profesi, serta Sekolah Pasca Sarjana. 2 kampus lain yang tersebar di Jawa Timur adalah Fakultas Ketahanan Pangan, berada di Kampus 3 UNESA, tepatnya di Jalan Profesor Dr. Mustopo, Surabaya. Kampus 4 UNESA berlokasi di Gedangan, Sidoarjo. Serta Kampus 5 UNESA yang berlokasi di Magetan, Jawa Timur.
Selamat datang di kampus Rumah Para Juara, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. Sebagai perguruan tinggi negeri berbadan hukum, UNESA terus menggali potensi terbaik anak bangsa, menempa para talenta gemilang, dan menjadi kampus yang ramah bagi semua kalangan. Kami percaya bahwa melalui pendidikan, peradaban dapat kokoh berdiri dengan menciptakan ruang inovasi, kreativitas, dan berdaya saing global. Memiliki program studi terakreditasi internasional maupun nasional. Kami berkomitmen memberikan pelayanan dan pendampingan bagi para mahasiswa dalam bidang akademik maupun non-akademik. Manu Emprit terbang di angkasa, terbang tinggi bersama rombongan. Ayo bangkit, wujudkan asa, bareng UNESA, satu langkah di depan.
Telah terakreditasi unggul secara kelembagaan, UNESA terus tingkatkan kualitas program studi pendidikan berstandar internasional melalui akreditasi ASIIN, AKAS, dan akreditasi FIBA-A. Terus tingkatkan pemeringkatan di tataran nasional maupun internasional. Universitas Negeri Surabaya juga kembangkan berbagai macam riset serta produk-produk inovatif. Rumah Para Juara berprestasi menjadikan UNESA wadah eksplorasi pengembangan soft skill dan hard skill. bermitra dengan berbagai pihak baik dalam skala nasional maupun internasional. Kerja keras ini akan terus berlanjut, wujudkan UNESA menjadi perguruan tinggi negeri terkemuka yang merdeka, berkelanjutan, dan ramah lingkungan di Indonesia.
Good morning, distinguished speakers, respected moderators, honorable lecturers, and all participants joining us from around the world. On behalf of the organizing committee, welcome to the 2026 International Webinar on Elementary School Teacher Education. My name is Koyumi Nasuha Azikri, and I am truly honored to be your master of ceremony for today's webinar. Today's webinar brings together educators, researchers, and practitioners to exchange ideas and practical strategies in elementary education, especially in the area of authentic assessment. We sincerely hope this academic forum will be meaningful, insightful, and inspiring for all of us. Before we begin, allow me to share several guidelines so our webinar runs smoothly. First, participants are expected to have joined the Zoom meeting before the webinar begins. Second, please use your real and full name during the session. Third, kindly keep your microphones muted during presentations. Fourth, cameras may be turned on during documentation or interactive session if requested. Fifth, questions can be submitted via the Zoom chat box or during the Q&A session. Sixth, please maintain politeness and professionalism throughout the webinar. Seventh, recording or redistributing webinar materials without permission is prohibited. Eighth, Please ensure a stable internet connection during the webinar. Thank you for your cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin this event formally, please stand for the Indonesia National Anthem, Indonesia Raya. The anthem will be conducted by Master of Ceremony.
Universitas Negeri Surabaya berperan aktif mencerdaskan bangsa, tangguh bermartabat berbudaya, tulus berbakti laksanakan tridharma, unggul berprestasi, karya inovatif, olahraga, ilmu dan seni, inklusif, adaptif, kolaboratif untuk kejayaan negeri. Dalam tempat kami raih cita-citamu, berani jujur dan teguh, jaga persatuan keluarga, teguhkan jiwamu untuk Indonesia satu langkah di depan. Dalam tempat kami raih cita-citamu, berani jujur dan teguh, jaga persatuan keluarga, teguhkan jiwamu untuk Indonesia satu langkah di depan.
Dear participant, we would like to remind you that live transcription is available on Zoom and YouTube to make the session more inclusive and accessible for all participants. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue to the next agenda, let us pray together according to our respective beliefs and religions, hoping that today's webinar will run smoothly and bring meaningful benefits to all participants. To lead the prayer, we would like to invite Mr. Dr. M. Bambang Edi Siswanto, MPD. The time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, let us bow our head in prayer. O the Almighty Allah, we gather here today with great our heads for the opportunity to come together in this international webinar. We thank you, Allah, for the gift of knowledge, collaboration, and innovation. May Allah bless this event, grant wisdom to every speaker, and understanding to every participant. Allahumma nawwir qulubana bin nuri hidayatika kama nawartal ardu bin nuri syamsika wa qamarika abadan birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Allahumma arinal haqqa haqqa warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arinal batila batila warzuqna ijtinabah. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Mr. Bambang for leading the prayer. May this webinar proceed smoothly until the end. Ladies and gentlemen, to officially begin our webinar, it's our honor to invite Mrs. Neni Mariana, SPD, MSc, PhD, to deliver the opening remarks. To Mrs. Neni, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Koyumi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, the Dean of Faculty of Education, Professor Dr. Muhammad Nur Salim, MSE, the Honorable, the Head of Undergraduate Study Program, Dr. Putri Rahmadianti, MPD, the Honorable, the Head of Doctoral Study Program of Elementary Education, Professor Dr. Suryanti, MPD. Alhamdulillah, on the behalf of 3 study programs here, I'm Neni Mariana as the Head of Coordinator of Master Study Program of Elementary Education. Let me say thank you very much for all the keynote speakers, for the outstanding keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Bayram Bichak from Akdeniz University, Turkey. Are you already here, Prof? Not yet? Okay. And we have with us Professor Jofar G. Pantau, PhD. You already joined, Jofar? Okay. And Bapak Abu Nawas, PhD, from Adelaide University, Australia. Alhamdulillah, we have 3 distinguished keynote speakers with us today for International Academic Forum, be held by 3 study programs of elementary education under the Faculty of Education, UNESA. So the topic today is about authentic assessment, which is very important for all of our students. Because I believe that education actually led by or driven by assessment. So it's not really necessary if you are talking about teaching and learning process, if the assessment will lead the teachers to determine whether they want to use a particular approach or particular learning model to their students. So by talking about authentic assessment in our curriculum reform is very important, and especially if you talk about practical matters, how to implement the assessment to elementary education. I think that this is a very critical issue that we have to bring to the surface through this conference, so our students and our teachers in Indonesia can get the insights how the assessment, authentic assessment should be implemented. So the international conference is a really regular event that we conduct each year to bring together all the international scholars so that our students can be discussed with the international scholars here. We have undergraduate students of elementary teacher education and master and doctoral students of elementary education together in one forum. So this is so prestigious forum, academic forum for us. I hope you all enjoy this academic forum, and don't forget, prepare the best questions to our distinguished keynote speakers today. So, on the behalf of the 3 study programs, with saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I want to start this conference today. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ms. Neni, for the inspiring opening remarks. Furthermore, we would also like to invite the Dean, Mr. Dr. Muhammad Nur Salim, MSE, to deliver the welcoming speech. The time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, distinguished guests, Koordinator Korprodi S1, S2, S3, Prof. Suryanti, Bu Neni Mariana PhD, dan Bu Dr. Putri Rahmadianti. Our Honorable Speaker, Prof. Jofar from Philippines, Prof. Bayram from Turkey, and Abu Nawas PhD from Australia. Our beloved student of Surabaya State University, all participants and future educator. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the international webinar, Authentic Assessment in Curriculum Reform. We are currently in an era of significant educational transformation. However, we must realize that curriculum reform is incomplete without a shift in how we assess our students. Today, we move beyond traditional testing toward authentic assessment, an approach that evaluates students' real-world competencies and their ability to apply knowledge in meaningful contexts. With experts from Turkey, Australia, and Philippines joining us, we have a unique opportunity to gain global insights and practical strategies that can be directly applied in the classroom. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the PGSD department for organizing this strategies international forum. To all participants, I hope this session inspire you to rethink assessment as a tool to empower your student, not just to grade them. By saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I officially declare the international webinar Authentic Assessment in Curriculum Reform is open. I wish you all productive and insightful discussion. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Mursalim, for the warm and encouraging message. And before we next agenda, I would like to documentation team for guide the photo session through 3 poses with Ms. Neni, Mr. Muhammad Mursalim, and all participants. Documentation team, are you ready for 3 poses? The first pose is formal, the second is PGSD kita, and the third is the Unesa satu langkah di depan. Alright, I'll count down from 3, 2, 1. First pose is formal. And the second pose is PGSD kita. And the third is Unesa satu langkah di depan. Okay, Vip Handal. Thank you, Ms. Nani and Mr. Dr. Muhammad Nur Salim. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin our first session. It's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Mr. Ulhaq Zuhdi MPD, a lecturer of the Elementary School Teacher Education Program, who will be joining us for the first session along with a speaker from the Philippines. We are honored to have him guide this session. Please welcome Mr. Ulhaq Zuhdi. The time is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Koyumi, as a moderator. Oh, yes, as a master of ceremony. Thank you, Koyumi. Iya, sarim bitan rek, Masya Allah. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To all the participants, as mentioned before by Ibu Neni Mariana, as the head of study program of the master degree, we have 3 distinguished study program that attend this international webinar. First is the bachelor degree, master degree, and doctorate degree. Very warm welcome to all of you, all the participants. My name is Ulhaq Zuhdi, and I'm honored to be the moderator of the first speakers. Before it starts, it's a great pleasure to introduce our first speaker today, humble, young, Professor Dr. Khobar J. Pantau. The flyer noted Jova. J in Spanish we pronounce H. Khobar. Mr. Khobar is the Assistant Dean of the College of Education and Director of the Center for Instructional Materials Development of Mindanao State University, General Santos. Very young professor, humble, and now he's being professor. And he is a homegrown scholar, the same institution, having completed all his academic degrees in education from bachelor to the doctoral levels. As a faculty member, he specializes in assessment of learning and innovative instructional strategies in both basic and higher educations. He teaches courses such as assessment and learning, where he design outcome-based and task-centered activities. His scholarship on assessment foreground authentic and performance-based tasks, and he actively contributes to classroom-based assessment research that links pedagogy with learners' performance. Beyond classroom assessment, his collaborative works examine culturally responsive education, madrasah education, and teaches working condition, often integrating evaluation of learning outcomes and educational environments in diverse and conflict-affected contexts. So he is not only see, but also find this problem solution. Through his teaching and research, he advances assessment of learning as a tool, not only for assessing achievement, but also for fostering values, formation, learning engagement, and equitable educational opportunities in Mindanao and beyond. Khobar is a multi-awarded educator, having received both local and national distinction, such as Gawatna Tanging Guru, General Santos City Youth Achievers Award, and United Nations Association of the Philippines, OILA 2009, and a recognition as one of the UNESCO. As we know, UNESCO is United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization as some outstanding educators of the Philippines in 2017. Please join me in welcoming Professor Khobar. Professor Khobar, nice to see you. You are very famous in here. You have a big flyers with have a patchy or copia. Mr. Khobar, the screen is yours.
Thank you for that generous introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Let me check if I'm audible. Well, once again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So it's a privilege to be sharing today about assessment models for deep learning in teaching elementary grades. So I am from Mindanao State University, General Santos, and our university is located in the southern part of the Philippines. So let's go deep and let's go to deep learning. So as you can see, the concept of deep learning is not a new thing to all of us. So when we speak of deep learning, the word itself, we have to make sure that students have to learn the lesson with depth. And so what we mean by deep learning is that the learning that we offer to our students or the learning we implement in the classrooms are supposed to be rich learning. It's not superficial. It's not something that it stays at the rote memorization or at the level of recall or simple recall. So let's try to look at the features of deep learning. So as what I mentioned a while ago, deep learning is rich learning. And when we facilitate rich learning or deep learning, we have to make sure that our students have meaningful understanding of the lesson we want them to understand. When we say meaningful understanding, we have to make sure that the lesson we introduce is connected to real life situation. And that what we mean to say is that our lessons have to be authentic so that we can construct or build the knowledge from the experiences of our students. And in that way, they can connect the abstract concepts with the realities, with what is happening in real life. Consequently, according to studies, when we connect the learning, the experiences of the students, and when we connect it to authentic setting, there is this what we call meaningful understanding, and that's one of the features of deep learning. The second is that it has to make sure that the lesson we facilitate touches on higher order thinking skills. So if we're going to go back to the Bloom's taxonomy, we're targeting here analysis, applying, evaluation, and even creating, because that's in the higher order thinking skills. But one of the most important skills that we need to introduce or we need to develop among our students is the critical thinking skill. Because as what I mentioned a while ago, deep learning is not rote memorization, it's not recall, but we make the students analyze, we make the students comprehend so that they will be able to apply the learning into real life situation. And they can deepen the dive to the lesson that is being introduced in the class. Going to the right side of my presentation is another feature, which is flexible use of knowledge. That the knowledge is not limited to our classroom setting, but it has to be going beyond and connecting to real life. So if we're going to look at my argument a while ago, it's really authentic. It connects to reality. We don't sound abstract to the students that we ask them to memorize the abstract symbols, the abstract concepts in which they cannot relate to what we're talking about. The concepts that we teach, particularly among our elementary students, are kind of abstract. That's why we have to make sure that we connect it to real setting. And I taught a lot of future educators in our university, and I always make sure that they facilitate scaffolding and conscientization so that students will be able to internalize that knowledge. And so I always emphasize whenever I teach teachers that when we are going to facilitate and assess learning, we have to make sure that they understand, that's their head. But it's not limited to cognitive, but we also have to make sure that their understanding has to transcend to their affect or the heart, the affect domain. When they are emotionally invested on their understanding, they can be empowered to be able to connect their understanding and what they hold on in their heart into application to real life setting. And that's one way to make sure that deep learning happens in our classroom. It's not about memorization, but it's about emotional investment among the students. There has to be motivation among the students so that motivations that they have, they'll be critically empowered so that they can do something about their learning. And when I say they can do something about their learning, this is about doing something about what they understood, which can respond to a particular problem or issues and concerns in the communities. And here, I have a point here that we have to understand. When we speak of deep learning, as I mentioned, it's about rich learning. And it's about development of capabilities for lifelong learning. We're not just teaching the students for grades. We're teaching the students so that they can be prepared to respond to situations in real life situations. And so deep learning is about improvement in the capabilities of the students for lifelong learning. And so what really is deep learning? Deep learning is a cognitive process where learners align goals, solve complex problems, and rigorously apply knowledge, integrating new ideas with what they already know. So scholars like Chen, Tsai, and Lee pointed out that deep learning is about finding solution to the problem. And that applying that basic understanding of knowledge so that they will be able to integrate that idea in responding to the concerns that are present in everyday life. Deep learning is also involving active and critical understanding. That's why I pointed out a while ago that critical thinking skills among the students is very vital to be developed when we promote deep learning. And so, constructivist by nature, we have to connect new and prior knowledge into a structured system and using it to solve problems in different contexts. So meaning to say, when we facilitate learning, and when we assess learning, we have to make sure that that knowledge that they acquired from us is something that they can apply so that they can respond to problem situations that people in their communities, maybe them, maybe their families, are encountering. And so, looking at the arguments of the different scholars, deep learning is a lesson that is supposed to be contextualized, nuanced in the setting of the community, and it's a problem solving. And because it's a problem solving, it requires critical thinking skills among the students. And so, let me show you another slide for you to understand what really is deep learning. So, as I mentioned a while ago, deep learning has features, but we can sum up this into three. One, cognition. And when we speak of the cognition, this is understanding of the knowledge and the concept. And when they understand the concept, or understanding of the concept requires critical thinking, requires analysis, so that when they get to comprehend, when they get to understand, when they get to evaluate that particular concept, they will be able to reflect on in what particular situations of learning or teaching learning in reality they can apply that particular knowledge that they understood. Second is motivation. It needs engagement. It's not a passive learning, but it's an active learning. And here, teachers have to be making sure that students are engaged in the process of deep learning. And in my experience, we really have to formulate scaffolds. We really have to formulate questions so that students are going to be engaged in that cognition process that we are facilitating in teaching learning. And so, the deep learning, because we emphasize application of knowledge in problem solving, that can consequently result in outcomes. So basically, when we implement deep learning, there is this cognition, motivation, and outcomes. And when we speak of the outcomes, because these are the outcomes that we need to assess, what are the models that we can follow in assessing the outcomes as we facilitate deep learning? So, the next slide is about assessment in deep learning. And take note that this is not a recall. This is an assessment that is not only particular with the grades, but it's about enduring understanding, not only enduring understanding, but meaningful enduring understanding among the students so that they can apply what they have learned in real life situation. And so, let's look at this check and X. When we speak of assessment in deep learning, it's assessment as learning. And in the process of assessment as learning, students are involved. Students are part of the process. Students are given the opportunity to review, reflect, to assess themselves, to assess with their peers. That is facilitated by the teacher. And that's why later on I'm going to present the different models. Peer and self-assessment is one of the models of assessment in deep learning. We are so obsessed with giving grades to our students, and that sometimes we use our reward power as teachers so that students will follow us. But take note that deep learning is not about giving grades, but it's about motivating the students so that they understand the application of that knowledge in real life setting. And so, let's remember that assessment in deep learning is not just a way to give grades, but it's part of the process of learning. It's a continuous process of learning among our students. And the challenge for us teachers is, how are we going to make our students engage? How are we going to make our students invest so that they will track, they will reflect on the knowledge that they've got from us and use that in real life context? Now, what are the different processes that we can, or what are the different assessment processes that we can use or we can implement so that deep learning is going to happen in classrooms? I'm just going to share something. When I was teaching grade 4 learners in science, and we taught about environmental lessons that time. And in our place, we have mangrove forest near our shores. And what we did was that we asked our students to come up with their proposals, not really that proposal, not really that technical proposal. In a culmination of our activity, we invited legislators to be around so that they can present their proposals on how to do rehabilitation of the mangrove forest. And that's something that is connected to their community, and it's about mangrove reforestation or mangrove rehabilitation. So we make sure that the assessment is in an authentic setting involving people that are in reality working on for that particular issue or concerns. And so when we speak of assessment in deep learning, it has to be process-oriented assessment. That they have to, when it's a project-based inquiry, students have to be asking the questions and going to the process and then documenting the process. This is where portfolio assessment is coming in, wherein students have to be compiling their experiences in the form of portfolio. Even in the early childhood setting, even for kindergarten, grade 1, we can come up with a portfolio, so that the process of learning that they have will be able to keep track. And that the way they demonstrate in the different authentic assessment is that being compiled along the process, and we can analyze their progress and development. So it's process-oriented, and one of the examples is portfolio assessment, for us to be able to document the process of learning. And the documents we compiled from the portfolio assessment will be our basis for us to say whether the students have improved something or not. Performance-based assessment, we are familiar with rubrics. But sometimes we just put rubrics. What I recommend in deep learning is we make use of analytic rubrics, because in analytic rubrics, we are detailing the descriptions that is being demonstrated by the student in that particular performance. And in that way, we can diagnose and we can look at what are the things that we need to improve on as a form of formative assessment. And this one is, the third one is self and peer assessment. I mentioned this because in deep learning, we encourage reflection. We encourage ipsative assessment or self-reflection, wherein students will have to know their abilities. Students will have to assess their own ability. And part of assessment as learning is also peer assessment, wherein they have to work with their peer so that they can assess or evaluate what their learning or what knowledge, skills, and attitudes they have acquired from that deep learning process. Now, we move on to the different models. So what are the different models? So you can make use of formative assessment. So formative assessment is like when we're going to cook, let's say, nasi goreng, and that the spices are not yet okay, or the taste is not yet good, so we add more spices until such time that we are satisfied. And that's probably a metaphor for formative assessment, wherein when the students have not achieved the mastery, because it's a process, then we have to make sure that we are going to do something in order to for these students to achieve the mastery or the kind of mastery that we want them. Portfolio assessment, I already mentioned about this, that it's actually a compilation so that we can track before this is their description of competencies, then after some time they improve, and that portfolio is a document that can tell us what other aspects of cognition, motivation, and even outcomes are we gonna improve on. Authentic and project-based, so it could be inquiry-based project, it could be a social-scientific project, or many other project-based learning. But assessment here is very important. We do not just provide grades to our students by asking them to submit. And when they submit, we do not look at the details of the project they submit. We have to make sure that we have a description of the competencies and performance standards that they have to demonstrate. And that is being reflected in the authentic and project-based measures or tools. And so we also use performance rubrics. And as I mentioned a while ago, I encourage analytic rubric because analytic rubrics does detail a lot about the standards of performance. Now, I'm just going to put some details, and maybe later on in the forum we can discuss more about it. I'm only given 20 minutes to present. So these are the different models. So one is formative assessment. So we can make use of ongoing quizzes or computer-based checks if we have learning management system. But in our LMS, you can probably students can probably check when there are answers already. When they click it and the correct answer, there's a feedback. So students will have to check their understanding from time to time. And I really encourage that in deep learning, there has to be feedback most of the time or all the time so that students will be able to self-assess their improvements. Teacher observations are very, very important in deep learning because not all improvements can be measured. And sometimes we need the teacher to qualify using qualitative descriptions based on the observations. And we can probably make use of teacher observations during oral recitations or during the sessions or even in collaborative and cooperative learning, performance tasks, or project-based assessment. As what I mentioned, we can also use digital tools. Next, authentic and project-based assessment. So what can we do here? We can do real-world projects, retelling stories, writing text, or producing comics or alike. So there are a lot of things that they can work on. Right now, when you teach, let's say, high school students probably, you can probably ask them to develop an app. You can probably ask them to develop digitized materials or videos. Those are project-based assessment. And because I mentioned a while ago that critical thinking skills are very important in deep learning, then we can also ask our students to do critical analysis reports and field-based activities. So since we're going to consider the connection of our learning to real-life situation, we can consider field-based activities so that students can really get to appreciate and can immerse into real-life setting. Though field-based activities could be very risky, especially for the younger ones, but you can try in safe places so that they will be able to understand and appreciate better the connection of what they're learning with what is going on in the field. Next is portfolio assessment. So we encourage right now to make use of e-portfolios. One is e-portfolios will probably conserve our environment because we're going to reduce papers that we're going to use for coming up with this portfolio. And in the e-portfolio, you can ask the students to upload successive drafts, reflections, and projects. A while ago, I emphasized about reflective practice in deep learning, and e-portfolio is an avenue where we can maximize opportunities of the students to do reflections. We can also ask them web-based portfolio systems in project-based courses where the teacher, one most accessible portfolio system is the Google Drive, wherein we can ask the students to come up with a photo, create a folder, and put there the different outputs that they have. And the last one is performance rubrics. So, as what I mentioned, there's nothing wrong with using holistic rubrics, but the advantage of using analytic rubrics really is that you really know the performance standards of the performance task given to the students. And of course, rubrics can also be attached to e-portfolios, whether that's project, that's performance, or portfolio. We can make use of rubrics for us to be able to define and communicate the standards that we expect from the students. And so, I'd like to end my presentation because I'd like to have more discussions about this. I'd like to emphasize that in the age of AI right now, artificial intelligence, a lot of students would probably tend to go surface that whatever is provided by AI, they are going to accept it. But in deep learning, it's more than artificial intelligence. It's more than machine learning. But in the age of AI, deep learning has to be investing a lot on critical thinking so that our students will not only be accepting whatever the AI provides, whatever the intelligent machines provide, but they will be critically analyzing whether the particular context or nuance of the information provided by AI, provided by different sources of information, are things that are truths. And in the post-truth era, there will be a lot of confusions. And very, very important that we develop critical thinking skills among the students so that they will not easily be vulnerable to misinformation and disinformation. And they have to make sure that they deep dive into the concept so that the concept is actually the truth that they can apply to real life setting. I'd like to end with a quote from Alexander Pope. A little learning is a dangerous thing. So, like say for instance, when you ask the students to get information from the AI without critically analyzing what it is, that's going to be dangerous because that information might not be accurate. That information is not validated. So we teach our students to validate, to confirm. And that's where critical thinking skill as a feature or among the features of deep learning is important here. Drink deep or taste not the Persian spring. So, what does this quote mean? We do not stay superficial when we ask our students to learn. We make sure that our students do not only memorize, but they are able to meaningfully understand. And as I mentioned a while ago, learning that we introduce to students are supposed to be enduring. There is supposed to be enduring understanding. And we can only do that if there is deep learning. Deep learning will result in enduring understanding that will contribute to citizens that are critical, to citizens that are contributory to solving the problem in their communities. And I think that will be a great input, or that they will be great citizens for nation building and global citizenship. Terima kasih banyak, and thank you for the opportunity to share about assessment models in deep learning.
Okay, sama-sama. Prof. Khobar, you can speak a little bit Indonesian. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. Khobar, for such informative and engaging presentation. Now we have time for some questions and answer. The comedian here will help me to choose, to pick who is the first asking the questions. It's very interesting topics because related with deep learning, that meaningful understanding, high order thinking skills, also critical thinkings. So we must have a good connection or integrating ideas, what the students, what they already know, and also involve active and critical understanding, connecting now and prior knowledge into structures, system, then using it in solve the problems. Would you like the committee to tell me, maybe in front of me is a big screen, who is the persons asking questions? Or maybe, in the studio, Mr. Professor Hoba, there is the one who are asking questions. What's your name? 15. Thank you very much. Would you like to go ahead, continue the questions, please? Before you ask the questions, please introduce your name and tell me maybe you're from the bachelor or the master or the doctoral degree. Thank you very much. We have 10 minutes, so it's very limited. It's honorable for you to have a question with Professor Hoba.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Ulhak. So, hello, Professor. My name is Vivtina Salma Arifa. I'm from master degree in elementary education. So, the first thing I would like to tell about the deep learning that you already presenting about. Deep learning is help student to understanding by increase, not create from the scratch, motivation and emotional and cognition. So that helps student to application the knowledge for a long life, like problem solving. But before that, I would like to you to answer my question and give you some opinion, and you can give me some opinion, because what is the first important skill between learning readiness and sustained attention, because these two aspects always neglected by teacher, like what you said before, that we are always focusing on grading, on grading. And after that, what is, that our partner, the parents, the parents doesn't help us to prepare student for studies. So in the class, it feels like we as a teacher have a lot of work, like prepare student in mentally, create a good character and give useful knowledge. So maybe you can give us about your opinion. Okay. Thank you.
That's a very nice question that we need to discuss in this conversation. Take note, as elementary teachers, we really have to make the students be engaged in the teaching learning process. And if you remember in my presentation, there are 3 things that we have to consider: engagement, cognition, and outcomes. When we deliver our lessons, say for instance, in the context of the Philippines, we really have to start with a lesson book. And many times, the lesson book can make or break our facilitation of learning. And one tip that I'd like to share is that when we're going to think of the lesson book, which happens or which is delivered in the first few minutes of the class, it has to be something that is relatable to the students, so that we can build on that connection from their experiences. The point that you would like to be clarified on is that maybe on the readiness of the students to be able to get into that industry. Of course, we have to make sure that deep learning is developmentally appropriate to the learners. For early childhood or early grades, we have to make sure that they master reading skills so that they can engage well in various forms of deep learning, because whether we like it or not, whether we like it or not, when we advocate for deep learning, we have to make sure that the basic skills such as reading are already established among the students. And so, sequentially, we have to make sure that the readiness skills for deep learning or the foundation skills for deep learning are already mastered by the students when they get into advanced deep learning. And the next one is the parents. So I think that problem or that concern is also true here in the Philippines, wherein in our country, some of the parents did not finish schooling. And so in our country, what we do in the teacher education institution is we actually come up with extension projects to be able to teach the parents on how to prepare the students for that kind of learning. In our case, for instance, in geographically isolated areas or disadvantaged areas, we start with teaching the parents on
You are freezing, Mr. Hobar. You're just freezing just now. There is a
I'm
error
sorry.
connection. It's not a problem, professors. Okay.
Yeah, but what my point is that readiness skills are very important to be developed before they can engage into deep learning or advanced deep learning. And we really have to partner with parents. I agree with you that we really have to partner with parents because remember that in deep learning we have to there is this community connection, and there has to be a dynamic parents school partnership so that we can push for deep learning. In Southeast Asian countries like the Philippines, this is a way to go because some of the parents have to learn how to prepare their students for or their children for deep learning. So readiness is very, very important, especially for elementary schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Hobar. We still have 5 minutes. Who are going to ask questions? Maybe in the studio? Oh, yes. Oh, there's so many participants, Prof. Hobar. Please, would you like to come forward, please? From the man there. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Mas Duta, right, your name? And also Harry. Harry, would you like to come forward also?
Okay, Mr. Hovar, thanks for the time and the opportunity that you give me. So my question is that we just have 5 minutes about the quantity of the student and the teacher. That we know that Southeast Asia is a big country, a long country. We have many islands, so we have some location that we cannot reach. So the student and the teacher is very different in quantitative stuff. So we have 40 students and just one teacher, and that's make some of the teacher very stressful. That we have make something assessment, so that student really use some AI just for the grades, and it makes us what is the point of making assessment when they just need to use AI to answer our assessment that we develop or build in like a week, a month, and they just use some AI to make the grades. And how about your opinion on that? I just need to know that.
Yeah, that is actually a very nice question and interesting question. And I think when it comes to large class size, in the Philippines, that is also the class size here, 45 students, and the challenge really is on the checking. On that matter, it's very important for the teacher to be strategic in a way that he or she has to choose the most significant performance task or project in such a way that he or she will not become exhausted with checking of the outputs. So it's very important that you conceptualize a project wherein the different standards in that particular subject is already being targeted by that particular project-based learning. On the issue of AI, the schools have to be guided, and I think that the Ministry of Education has to provide a blanket on a guidance on how to use AI, particularly in teaching elementary grades. In our country, there's already an issuance of the Department of Education order on the use of artificial intelligence to support learning. And I think it's very, very important that we discuss among our students the advantages and disadvantages of AI, and we teach them how to make use of this AI as an assistive tool rather than a tool for cheating. And so, why do you think students are, you tend to perceive students as using AI as a cheating tool rather than an assistive tool? It's probably because there are, if there are guidelines, then these are not introduced, or the students are not oriented about how to make use of AI ethically and responsibly. So in the school governance side, I think it would be nice that that the schools will have to establish ethical and responsible use of AI, as whether a school policy, a ministry policy, or a district policy, so that AI will not become a cheating tool but an assistive tool for learning. Because whether we like it or not, AI is already there. And we just need to teach them how are we going to make use of AI so that deep learning can still thrive in our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khobar. Next questions by Mas Hari. Thank you. For undergraduate study program, elementary school teacher education. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the time. I will introduce myself first. My name is Henry. I am from the bachelor degree. I want to ask one question. Prof. Jofar already told us about self and peer assessment, but in my perspective, in my experience, self and peer assessment are quite biased for elementary students because there's two factors why in the end it will be quite biased. One, the cognitive levels still not very optimum for elementary students. That is already explained in the PIC theory, because they cannot access their own self with a minimum optimal cognitive that they can know how far they understanding something. Like in mathematics, they cannot access very well quite about how much they know about the analytical stuff, just example. And the second reason, the student will not very objective if they access their peers, because in some cases there's a personal problem within the student. If we have the assessment, in the peer assessment, it will be quite biased, because the assessment that will be given will always be very negative in the way. So what is the purpose? In the end, we have to give self and peer assessment if there's a bias there. Maybe that's always from me, Prof. Jofar.
Yeah, that's the experience of many teachers in the field and even pre-service teachers. They always complain about that bias that is being demonstrated whenever they ask the students to do self-assessment and peer assessment. But in experience, one thing can help the students in your classes so that this self-assessment and peer assessment will be become meaningful is that you try to discuss with the students their rating and triangulate it with the objective outputs that they have, may it be quizzes or any other form of performance that are assessed by the teacher. So that's why it's not enough that we rely or depend on peer and self-assessment, but we need to triangulate or corroborate the results of the peer and self-assessment with the objective assessment. And then you will have to find some time for some students who actually have deviations on the objective assessment with their self-assessment so that they can get to understand that self and peer assessment is not about getting high scores, but it's about describing what really can demonstrate. So I think the gap there is that we fail to discuss among the students the result or their accomplished self and peer assessment. So if there are discussions about how they did the self and peer assessment, then I think students can be helped as to how critically they will do it whenever they are going to do self and peer assessment. It's going to be an additional task, but if we really want deep learning, we have to teach our students how to do self and peer assessment. Maybe more orientation on how to do it among the students.
Thank you. Because we still have a little time to discuss Prof. Khabar, we also give a chance for the from the Zooms, participant from the Zoom, from Maya Purmaning Tias. The question is like this, Prof. Khabar, in elementary setting, how do we adjust deep learning models for young students who are still developing basic literacy as foundational skills? The questions from the Zoom. Thank you, Prof. Khabar.
Yeah. Now, I think for the early or for those students who are still in the foundational skills, like scaffolding is very important here, and the way we ask questions with the students are supposed to be developmentally appropriate, and we have to make sure that the authentic assessment that we design for the students are something that are appropriate to their age. And there are actually authentic assessment that are appropriate for grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and so on. So as teachers, this requires a lot of creativity. This requires a lot of thinking on how to design appropriate strategy for lower grades. But one important strategy to be able to be successful in the implementation of deep learning in the early grades is about how do we frame our questions, how do we scaffold so that it can really stoop down to the level of the students. It doesn't mean that they are in the foundational skills, we cannot introduce deep learning. We can already introduce deep learning as early as kindergarten. For all, I had an experience. My first year in teaching, I actually experienced teaching kindergarten and senior nursery, and that's very interesting. And would you believe that I was able to, using an inquiry, I was able to ask 3-year-old to be able to explain why osmosis in a simpler term. What makes the quail egg float on a salty water? And even at grade 3, even at kindergarten or junior nursery, students were able to explain that particular, of course, they don't talk about density, they don't talk about salt, but they talk about floating and sinking object. So that's an inquiry in a junior nursery class. But the challenge here is how you're going to be creative in such a way that that authentic setting is going to be understood by a student even at the foundational level. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Khobar. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the end of our first session international webinar. I would like to thank you for our incredible speakers, Prof. Khobar, for sharing his knowledge with us today. Once again, I'm Mulhaq Suhdi. Thank you for joining with us. It was a pleasure having you all. Wassalamualaikum. Wassalamualaikum
It's also a
warahmatullahi
pleasure to be sharing today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before you close your screen, Prof. Khobar, let me have a photo screen with the certificate. The committee, the screen is yours. Wait for a moment, Prof. Khobar. It's under for us for the photo session with you, with the certificate. Wait for just a moment. The committee is still preparing. We are waiting for a moment, Prof. Khobar. How about the climate in Mindanao? It has a rainy or shiny or something.
It's sunny day.
Sunny day.
It's really hot here because it's summer. That Ibu Putri is next to me, and she's asking when you come to Indonesia. The camera, the certificate, Prof. Dr. Khobar J. Pintau. All the clapped on you. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Khobar.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to our moderator and speaker for the insightful and inspiring session. Let us give them a virtual round of applause. And the discussion session for the first session has concluded. Thank you for the engaging discussion and participation. And we now move to second session. Allow me to introduce our next moderator, Ms. Delvia Ihlasiah Rahman, SPD MA, lecturer of the Elementary School Teacher Education Program, who will be joining us for the second session, along with a speaker from the Turkey. Please welcome Ms. Delvia. The time is yours.
Hello, can you hear me? Ladies and gentlemen, in the Zoom session, in the Zoom virtual way, in the virtual way. Yeah. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my pleasure to be to be here as a moderator. My name is Delphi, and also the coordinator of undergraduate program elementary school, Miss Putri, and the other college. Here we are welcome my teacher. We call him Hoca. Yeah, we add Hocam in Turkey. It's mean my teacher. He is my teacher in Akdeniz University. So please give a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Bayram Bıçak Hoca from Akdeniz University, Turkey. Merhaba hocam.
Merhaba.
Nasılsınız hocam?
Teşekkür ederim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
We are very happy to have you here as our second keynote speaker, and maybe this is time for you. But before that, I'm sorry, let me read the CV first, the curriculum vitae. Sizin özgeçmesini okuyayım hocam. Tamam. Okay. So Professor Dr. Bayram Bıçak Hoca is finished at the University of Arizona at Faculty of Education in the United States for his doctorate, and his postdoctorate at University of Pittsburgh Faculty of Education, United States, and his undergraduate at Hacettepe Üniversitesi in Turkey. Now his position is a professor at Akdeniz University, Antalya. Antalya is like Bali in Indonesia, is a tourist place, touristic area. Yeah. He wrote a lot of journal and paper. Here we got just a couple of them, because in Turkey we have a real CV we can access in Afesis. We call that Afesis. He wrote a lot of books. One of them is Mapping Teacher Education in Europe, and then in Turkey, Performance Değerlendirme Matematik mi yoksa Matematik Selektirme mi? Very great. And he present a lot of papers at peer-reviewed scientific conference, and I can't read all of them, so you can access it in Afesis. You can write Bayram Bıçak Hoca CV. Okay. Hello Bayram Bıçak Hoca. Hello again. Merhaba hocam. Hazır mısınız hocam? Hocam pardon, sizin sesinize duyamıyoruz.
Sesim açık.
Tamam. Geldi hocam, geldi. Buyurun hocam.
Selamünaleyküm. Merhaba.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for having me here. I'm very glad to be here. 2 years ago, my voice is coming to me. My voice is coming to me. Disturbing.
Tamam hocam, bir saniye hocam. cek terus hocam lisannya.
Okay. Yes, thanks again for having me here. Telling you in the middle of endless war. And after 2 years, we are in the same position. It didn't change anything. You know, I'm very sorry. And in Turkey, we are in the middle of several wars right now. It's very sorry, very upsetting. It's very, very challenging to, you know. It's, I'm very sorry for the humankind and shame for the humankind. All these things happens around the world. Now I am going to share my um, my presentation. How can I share? Just a second. I would like to open my presentation. Excuse me, can you see my presentation?
Yes hocam, but can you make it bigger?
Defia?
Yeah, halo hocam.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, but can you make it bigger? Daha büyük olabilir mi? Çünkü çok iyi göremiyoruz. Ha, tamam şimdi iyi hocam geldi.
Okay, I'm going to talk about education argument and the errors we are making examination process. When we ask teachers, what do you improve in your profession? Excuse me, Delphia, my sound is coming to me all the time. When I say something, it's echoing me.
We are still checking it hocam.
Delphia, hello?
Hocam, hello, can you hear me? Yeah, we still checking it hocam. Alat teknik ile ilgili bir şey var hocam. Şimdi bakıyoruz
Yeah.
tamam.
When I tell something, stem, sorry. These types of errors stems from the lack of knowledge, misunderstanding, or bias in the person preparing or administrating the exam. For example, if the instructor is biased against some student and this affects their grading style, this leads to subjective evaluation error. If an instructor does not employ a scoring rubric during the assessment process, this adversely affects the validity and reliability of the evaluation. If you don't spare enough time for the grading. Excuse me? Okay. If you do not spare enough time for the grading process, you are sleepy, you are sometimes drunk, or sometimes we don't offer this kind of settings may not be good for the rating grading process. You need to be very careful. We need to be very vacant during the exam grading process. This is very important. Especially graders do some kind of error types. In the literature, there are some kind of, let me show you here. They're supposed to be, excuse me, here, especially for the subjective tested strategies, we are going to face with halo effect, rater drift, carryover effect, generosity or stinginess, and so on. Kind of factors may affect your grading results. For example, halo effect is one of the most common effect we see during the grading process. Especially, what does that mean? Halo effect is imagination of the students in your head may affect your grading rate, such as if you have a good imagination about the students who are rating, you can give easily higher points. But if your imagination is a person or student is not good, you may give lower point to the whatever he says. This is the halo effect, and how can we deal with this? Maybe we can say blinding might be helpful. If you don't see who is project or his paper is you are grading, you may not do kind of error at that moment. It's very hard, I know, but it's not easy to give out kind of effect and affect your rating ability. And rater drift is another kind of mistake or error we are doing or facing during the grading process. You know, we suggest that you need to use rating scales for this kind of error process, during the rating process. I'm sorry. When you put away the rating scale and do not look at for a long time, you may do some mistakes from students to students, because you don't take into the rubric for all the students. You don't set the standards for the students during the grading process. And another one is, excuse me, rater drift is how can we deal with this kind of error or mistake during the grading process. The thing is, rater drift is maybe you can grade tasks one by one. For example, firstly, only first two questions you can grade, especially for the open-ended questions you are grading. Only grade on the first question, and after that second question, after that third question, and so on. So you can see also you can also get some feedback for the questions. So what I teach and what to get from the students, we can see, and if there is something wrong, we can also get some feedbacks for our effort and teaching process. The other one is carryover effect we can face during the examination. For example, if you read one student's paper, it may, if it's a good question, good paper, after that an ordinary paper or ordinary answer may not be sufficient for us. And after that, also, if you read very bad questions, and after that an ordinary question make you feel is a very good question. So one answer affect your behavior to another one. It's a carryover effect we are facing, and we need to do that. The question by question is reading is may overcome this kind of effect too. It might be very helpful. The other things might be occur during the examination. Generosity is graders give tremendous grades. Whatever they say, don't see any mistake and give all of them. It's a good grade. It's not good for the students. We cannot separate poor and good in these cases. And also some teachers do sittingness, it's poor grading and doesn't give any question. Only perfect students can get good grades and others never. It's a kind of shame, but sometimes do that. We need to be just. We need to. These things are important because we are doing the very fragile, very important, duty we are progressing during the examination. Especially measurement process is very, very critical because we cannot see who is who. Otherwise, we cannot spare the students, good or bad, whatever. That's very important. These are the very important sources for the, especially raters for the teachers during the examination process. These are the examples I give you. Sometimes we can take a look at it. Error ongoing from the grader. This actual error stems from the lack of knowledge, misunderstanding, or bias of the person preparing and administrating the exam. This is based on teachers' capability and, for example, if the instructor is biased against some students and affects of their grading style, this leads to subjective evaluation error. If an instructor does not employ a scoring rubric during the assessment process, as I said before, this is affect the validity and reliability of the evaluation process. The measurement tool also another kind of source for the errors during the examination. The errors arise from the measurement tools used being incomplete, misleading, or flawed. For example, exam content. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry because it's a very early morning here and I'm still sleeping. It's 6 o'clock around here in Turkey. For example, exam content. If the exam questions are not suitable for the student's language level or handle important topics like grammar or vocabulary in unbalanced way, this is an error orienting from the measurement tool. You need to give a good how can I say instruction. Yes, instructions very important. What do they need to do for the students? Sometimes you can inform which question is more point than the others. You need to inform the students before the exam. Format and the structure also another kind of source could be for the especially for the random errors. Exam containing misleading or ambiguous instruction cannot accurately measure students' true language knowledge and abilities. Also, another whatever measurement tool related source we can say. The another source for the process, especially for the random errors, is environment. Environment is noise, hot, cold, and other distractors during the examination can affect the student's behavior, especially for, you know, you think yourself in the exam and someone is very destructively, doing some things, making noise or distracting your attention. This kind of factors may affect most of the students' real performance during the examination. That's why it's a kind of random error source. So we need to take very care. We need to be very careful during the examination. Any kind of this kind of sources may not affect the students' attention. And for example, technical problems can be internet connection issues or platform errors experienced in the online exam can affect students' ability to complete to exam. Especially this is very important in the recent, during the COVID term, we had to give online exam to the students, and we faced so much technology oriented, internet oriented obstacles for during the exam affected the students' behavior, and also another kind of problems we are faced, especially for the cheating or something like you remember during the COVID time. The last one is for the random errors. Another kind of source is examinee himself, herself. The type of error originating from the personal circumstances of the individual taking the examination. For example, students' preparedness. If students has not adequately prepared for the examination, or feels unwell on the day of examination, this may affect their performance. That's why, but we not. What can we do this kind of situation? Maybe we can we can how can I say, especially I think how can I say, we need to encourage them to do their best. Encouraging if you believe in yourself, you can do better. You cannot, okay? You may urge students to do their best what can I say? To get better results for the students.
Hocam.
Okay, the error.
Hello.
How can I say, especially I think, how can I say, we need to encourage them to do their best. Encouraging them, we can read, maybe helpful your assessment style, or you can think, what are we doing during the examination? We can take some lessons from this kind of scenarios. For example, here, an instructor asks students to write a story during the examination. However, the instructions regarding the topic and format of the story are left considerably ambitious and open-ended. While some students write the story from a first-person perspective, others prefer to use the third person. During the assessment, the instructor assigned high grades to the students who use the first person, as is aligned with their personal preferences. This is a kind of error that you cannot be ambiguous during the examination. You have to be clear and maybe you cannot be ambiguous during the examination. Open-ended questions. Maybe you can restructure what will be given to the exam. Questions. Maybe you can restructure what will be given to the exam.
Hocam. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. You have 5 more minutes, Hocam. After that, we will have answer any question. Ve hocam siz eğer Türkçe ile konuşmak isterseniz ben çevirebilirim hocam.
Yok böyle devam ediyorum şu an. Biraz şey kaldı. There are some examples, scenarios we are talking about. Exercise preparation
Tamam hocam.
Popular knowledge examiners require students to use specific words correctly within sentences. However, the majority of the words employed in the examination have never been covered in class and have not been previously introduced to students. Most students review receive low scores on the examination because they are unfamiliar with these words. So that's another kind of difficulty we need to solve. There are more examples in the presentation we can read. I would like to share social studies in Turkey, especially, in 2004, behaviorist approach, we changed our educational approach from behaviorism to constructivist approach in 2004. And after that, we changed many things in education systems. And Turkey central education model is currently using to employ our education setting in every discipline. Interdisciplinary approach, competence-based learning, sensory skills, emotional learning, holistic assessment, and value education is currently we are conducting an education system. Especially for the social studies, we are going to focus on in this part. 2008 curriculum and current right now we are going to we are using Turkey century education model. We can see here focus of the system, core values and basic skills in 2018 curriculum. Right now, interdisciplinary holistic education is conducting. Learning outcomes, assessment tools also changed, especially assessment tools. In earlier term, we used written exam, tests, and performance tests we were using. Right now, we are using portfolio, project, self-peer assessment, observation, something like. We are changing our education approach from one-to-one. Especially affective assessment, for example, is very important right now. Survey, observation forms, self-assessment tools. We are going to share grading report from some samples from Turkey. Okay. What changed in measurement and evaluation also? Traditional exam were dominant before 2004. Right now is process and portfolio assessment is more important. Multiple choice and written test, especially in the earlier time. Right now, project, observation, self-assessment, theoretical knowledge, basic skills, cognitive and social emotional skills is more dominant, something like. Academic achievement prioritize now holistic development is more important, especially student-oriented, student-centered approaches we are using right now, and it's very good for students. But I don't know, but we are still waiting for the results. What happened after this change? After these changes. Affective domain development assessed informally, but now it's more proof oriented. Affective assessment with systematic tools we are proving and we are conducting and based on some proofs. Outcome focused evaluation now continues feedback through the process. Those are the tools we are using for the social studies, for the social studies, and the other subjects also use kind of tools. Observation, checklist, rubric, portfolio, self-peer assessment, performances, attitude skills, game-based assessment, anecdotal record, role-playing, structured grid, learning gallery presentation, something like. We are using lots of changes in our education system, especially this kind of approach. This is okay. And also we are attitudes. We are focusing on attitudes, values, and social emotion in this regard. Environmental awareness, willingness for the healthy living, curiosity about learning, especially values or values, empathy and respect, sense of responsibility, cooperation and solidarity, and social emotional aspect, communication skills, expressing emotions, self confidence and self awareness. We are also using this kind of yeah. It's very end, almost done. This is the Delphia. These are the samples. This is earlier grading report from Turkey and elementary school, such as these are the only subjects here, and only grades you can see here. There is no any explanation. After I think last 2 years, it started another kind of grading report like this. This is also grading report we are using in the elementary schools. You see, all
It almost like the
this
same, Hocam.
explanation about one students.
In Turkey, we're using this. This is a report for in elementary school. Yeah.
This one is very poor.
Oh yeah, it was the
result oriented
2018 curriculum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we are
Now
using,
this is the Turkey Central Education Model assessment.
Yes.
Yes.
And conclusion, I can say the represent a shift from traditional exam to holistic and process focused assessment. Affective gains must be measured with systematic tools, observation, self-assessment, attitude skills. For the social studies, I am focusing over here. It depends on the subject. Maybe may change. Checklist, observation forms, and self-assessment to take students' real-life competencies. It might be very helpful. Selecting the right tool for each learning outcome is the foundation of valid and reliable evaluation. Family involvement and constitutes feedback and interdisciplinary elements supporting the learning process, and reliable measurement, random error sources need to be eliminated for our just decisions. It's very important. As I said in the beginning, teaching is an art. It's not only regular profession.
Yeah,
You need
that's
to
right.
you need to like this job. You
Yeah.
need to like people. You need to be dedicated teacher, and you need to be very careful what you are doing during the examination. That's all I say.
Okay. Thank you, Hojam. Thank you so much. Let's give applause to Bayram Hojam. Hocam ben özeteceğim biraz conclusion. I will make a conclusion in Indonesian. Okay. So jadi tadi Bapak Bayram Becak Hoja bilang bahwa ada 3 error dalam penilaian. Yang pertama fixed error yang termasuk salah satu jenis kesalahan dalam pengukuran. Berhubungan dengan contohnya jika seorang pengajar otomatis memberikan jumlah poin yang sama kepada setiap siswa padahal beda begitu kan. Kemudian systematic error yang berhubungan dengan langsung secara umumnya akibat adanya bias ketidakkonsistenan dalam proses pengukuran. Contohnya adalah jika kita menilai aksen dalam penilaian kemampuan berbicara seorang anak padahal penilaiannya bukan hanya berkaitan dengan aksen. Kemudian random errors berkaitan dengan siswa yang mengalami hal buruk dengan kegiatan dia sehari-hari dengan lingkungannya, kemudian yang seperti itu. Dan ada 4 tadi source atau sumber dari error. Yang pertama adalah error dari instrumen, kedua kurangnya pengetahuan mengenai pemberian skor, ketiga dari lingkungan yang bising, dan dari partisipan sendiri. Dan yang mungkin bisa kita pelajari dari Turki, salah satunya Turki menggunakan Turki Century Education Model sekarang lebih merujuk pada penilaian holistik edukasi, contoh memakai game based learning, kemudian menggunakan penilaian proses, portfolio, dan project. Okay. Teşekkür ederim hocam. Bir tane soru var sadece bizim için, sizin için.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Yeah. Any question? Yes. Can you use mic? The mic. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, here we go.
So,
look.
So, thank you for the opportunity to ask a question. My name is Mutiara Putri Salsabila, and I'm from elementary teacher school education. And I would like to ask about the random error. While the source of a fixed error is identifiable, random error is much harder to anticipate and predict. My question is, what are the most effective preventive measures to reduce random error caused by environmental condition or student physical state during an exam? That's all. Thank you very much.
Delphia, could you ask the question one more time, or you can rephrase the question for me?
Okay. Random error ile ilgili hocam. Yani mesela random error ile ilgili çok daha fazla yapamıyoruz gibi. Ne yapmamız gerekiyor olmamak için?
Okay. You need to be very careful during the examination, especially environment for the environmental issues. You need to be really careful. You need to motivate students for the exam, and you need to rating scales, rubrics during the grading process. Those are very important, and you can have a good examination results, and you can justly observe your students and rate them in justice. That's the only thing I can say. Environment is important. Noise, hot, cold, whatever. All the environmental issues you can take consider during the examination. while reading and writing, rating the students, you need to use rating scales, and you have to plan your examination in very good way. You plan, you read your questions, you take opinion from the others. You have a good instructor for the exam. Instruction you can prepare. If you take this kind of things consideration, you can have a very good exam results. Don't worry. But always have mistakes. Without mistake, we don't have any measurement. All the technicians, engineers also do the same mistake. Measurement always has a mistake, error. But to minimize, we can do some efforts. That's the question. That's the answer.
Yeah, thank you so much. I believe so. There's a lot of always error in measurements. I believe I remember from other hojam unut hojam shay baska sunum nyaparkan baska bir hojam barda error ile harkanda konushtu birinci semester de. Okay hojam, thank you so much for today's session. Teşekkür ederim bugün için. Bitirmeden önce sizin için sertifikamız var. Küçük bir sertifikat. Can we have the certificate on the screen? Yeah, okay, here we go. Thank you so much. Let's give applause to Bayram, Professor Dr. Bayram Hoja.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Take care of you, Hojam. Thank you so much again. I hope I can meet you again in Turkey, or maybe you will come to Indonesia again, Hojam. Inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah.
Kendinize iyi bakın hocam. Çok teşekkür ederim. Allah'a emanet olun. Teşekkür ederim.
I couldn't ask you, Delphia, how are you, by the way?
Very great.
Okay?
Çok iyi hocam. Teşekkür ederim. Thank you so much. I'm very happy because of you I'm here.
You pass my greetings to everyone.
Oh yeah, everyone is here. Greeting to everyone. Waalaikumsalam dari hojam. Waalaikumsalam.
Assalamualaikum.
Bye bye hojam.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Bayram, for the excellent discussion and valuable insight. And the discussion session for the second session has concluded. Thank you for the engaging discussion and participation. And dear all participants, remember everyone, don't forget to fill in the attendance link provided in the chat box. And now, we will continue to the next session. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ricky Setiawan, SPD MED, lecturer of the Elementary School Teacher Education Program, who will be joining us for the last session, along with the speaker from Australia. Please welcome Mr. Ricky Setiawan, SPD MED. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Good afternoon, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I would like to greet our keynote speakers there. Mr. Abu Nawas, PhD, are you there? Okay, one more. Okay, I can see you there. So, welcome to the last session, and this is the third keynote session. I hope that all of you are still awake and still have the spirit to join the last session. And hello, Mr. Abu Nawas, PhD. Can you hear my voice?
Hello, hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Can you?
I had some trouble with the audio, so I was using the earphone, but it's not working now. So yeah.
Okay. Can you hear my voice?
Hello?
Is my voice clear for you?
Okay. I think yes, yeah.
Okay, how about
Am I
now?
coming through okay?
Can you hear me?
Oh yes.
Perfect.
I do, but what about my voice?
It's
Am I coming
perfectly
through?
clear here.
Okay, cool.
Thank you very much. So before we start this keynote session, allow me to introduce you first. And I'm so sorry for a little bit delay, but anyway, good afternoon there. I believe it is almost 2 p.m. in Adelaide right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's almost 2 p.m. And Mr. Abu Nawas PhD, I can say you spent more like almost 10 years in the Adelaide, Australia. So graduated from Master of Education and also Doctor of Philosophy in the University of Adelaide, Australia, and has the academic experiences starting from 2020 in the same university as academic tutor, academic researcher, research assistant, academic teaching, associate lecturer. Until now, you are the lecturer and the faculty member in the School of Education in Adelaide University. And here we can see there are some teaching activities that you have done in some courses in educational major project, in communicating for equity agency and engagement, also for mixed method research, education major research, and also for assessment and evaluation, which is our topic for today. And also there are some publications. So without further ado and without waiting for any longer, Mr. Abu Nawas PhD, the next 30 minutes will be yours. It's until 11:30 Indonesian time here, or it will be 12:30 p.m. in your time. So the next 30 minutes will be yours. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you so much. So I'll try to share my screen now. Screen two. Okay, did you see my screen now?
So far, we still cannot see any of your PPT,
What about
but
this one? Okay.
okay, we can.
What about now?
Yes, perfect. We can see the authentic assessment. Yes.
Okay, cool. So good afternoon from Australia, and good morning to everyone joining from Indonesia and Philippines and Turkey. So I feel honored to be here. Anyway, today we will explore what the authentic assessment is and why it is important in teaching and learning, and how teachers can design meaningful and practical assessment tasks connected to the real world learning. So I also apologize in advance for my text-heavy slides later, but I will keep it the presentation simple, clear, and concise. And I promise not to take too much time for your time, guys. So all right, so let's begin with the clear definitions. So authentic assessments involve the applications of knowledge and skill in real-world situations, scenario, and problems. So in other words, instead of asking students only to recall the information, so authentic assessment asks them to use what they know in the middle context. For example, so if the students are learning mathematics, a traditional test might ask them to calculate the percentage. But in authentic assessment, the test may ask them to plan a simple class event budget and explain their spending decisions. So the important point is that authentic assessment is creates a student-centered learning experience, because students are not only passive receivers of information, but they have opportunity to inquiry, make a choice, create a new knowledge, and demonstrate understanding in ways that resemble life practice. Authentic assessment also is defined as a form of direct assessments, because it gives the teachers direct evidence of students' ability to apply the knowledge, skill, and attitudes. This is why authentic assessment is often connected with the performance assessment or alternative assessments, because the teacher doesn't only infer learning from a test score. Instead, the teacher observe a performance, examines a product, listen to an explanations, or evaluated the process. Yeah, authentic assessment can take many forms, as you can see from the slide. So some authentic assessment are performance, while others are products. So both are valuable because they are allow the students to demonstrate learning in ways that are visible, practical, and connected to real tasks. So a performance might include a presentations. And in this case, students must actively use their knowledge and skills. For example, when students participate in a debate, and they need to understand the content, organize the arguments, listen to others, respond appropriately, and communicate persuasively. So on the other hand, the product might include the infographic here or drawing. So in this case, the students create something that represent their learning. However, we must remember that a task is not authentic simply because it looks creative or interesting, but the task becomes authentic when it is meaningfully aligned with the real-world practice, learning objectives, and clear assessment criteria. Yeah, this is some important elements that make assessments more authentic. The number one is accuracy and validity. So these are central to designing high-quality authentic assessment. So accuracy refers to how closely the assessment resembles a real-world situations or a meaningful practice in the field of study. So if the task is meant to assess the communications, then the student should communicate with a real or realistic audience. For the validity refers to how well the assessment criteria align with the learning objectives, transferable skills, workforce readiness skills, and relevant practice. So the example here on the slide is a primary school task in English lesson. So I will use this context along these presentations. For example, the students make plans and present a short holiday recount. So making sure the events are in the correct order and details are clear. So this task is accurate because recounting a personal experience is a real communicative act. Also, the task is valid because when students are assessed on the feature of recounting, such as orientation, sequence of events, past tense verbs, time connectives, and simple closing reflections. So this example helps us see the common mistakes in assessment design. If the students are asked to present a holiday recount, but the rubric gives most mark for decorations, costume, memorizations, then assessment might become less valid. The second one is authentic assessment should allow students to demonstrate learning in a way that reflects the subject. In the holiday recount examples here, students demonstrate their English learning by recounting a holiday experience from beginning to the end. So they use the time connectives, describe descriptive language, appropriate pronunciations, and they answer classmates' questions. In this case, the teachers can observe how well students organize the idea, speak clearly, and use English for communications. This is different from asking students only to complete a worksheet to a past tense verbs. So a worksheet might show whether students can recognize or produce correct forms in isolations, but in oral recounts shows whether students can use those verbs as a part of meaningful message. So this is direct evidence of communicative ability. The third is transferable knowledge. So authentic assessment should support the transfer of knowledge. Transfer means that students can apply what they have learned in one context to another context. In education, transfer is one of the most important goals. So we do not want students to learn only for Friday tests, for example, then forget the material at all. We want them to use learning beyond the immediate lessons. In the examples, the students apply, recount writing and speaking skill to a familiar personal event, and then the students transfer classroom learning about the recount structure into real communications. They organize the event, choose useful vocabulary, speak to the audience, and respond to questions. This is where authentic assessment become more powerful. It also helps the students see the school learning is not separate from the life. In this case, English is not just a subject in the textbook, but a tool for telling story, sharing experience, asking questions, and connected with others. The next is metacognition, means thinking about students' own thinking and learning. In authentic assessment, students should have opportunities to reflect on how they planned, how they perform, how they improve, and how they learned. In holiday context, students might reflect on some questions. For example, how did I plan my account? What feedback did I receive? What did I improve after practicing? And what was difficult for me? And these questions help students become more aware of their learning strategy. They also help the teachers understand students' confidence, challenges, and progress. And the fifth is collaborations. Many real-world tasks now are social. People work with colleagues, ask for the feedback, share ideas, divide responsibilities, and improve their work through interactions. Therefore, authentic assessment should provide these opportunities for collaborations when collaboration is appropriate to the task. However, the collaborations must be structured carefully. The teacher should make clear what students are doing together and what each student is individually responsible for. For example, the students can practice in pairs, but each students may still deliver their own recount. So this ensures that collaboration support learning rather than hiding individual performance. The final element shown here is environment and tools. So authentic assessment is strengthened when the learning environments and tools support meaningful performance. For the holiday recons presentation, for example, so the classrooms can be set up like presentation space. So there may be a speaking area, audience sets, cue card, picture prompts, vocabulary banks, and peer listening sheets. And these tools help the students to speak more confidently, listen actively, ask questions, and use English for genuine communications. The environment doesn't need to be expensive, doesn't need to be complicated, and authentic assessment doesn't require very advanced technology in every single case. So a simple classroom arrangement can be enough if it supports the tasks. So the teacher's role is to design conditions that make success possible. So this is include providing a tools, modeling the expectations, giving a practice time, and ensuring that students understand how they will be assessed. Now let us consider the benefits of authentic assessment. Well, number one is self-efficacy and confidence. Self-efficacy means that learners believe that they can succeed in a task. When students complete the meaningful task successfully, they often begin to see themselves as a capable learner. So authentic assessment can support this because students are not only answering the questions, but they are producing something, performing something, solving the problem, and communicating something. So the slides here refers to the review project-based learning research, where many students reported improved confidence and optimism about implementing project-based learning in the future careers. So another example is mentioned here, scenario-based learning in general education writing course, where the students who participated in scenario-based learning showed higher average than students who didn't receive scenario-based learning. So this suggests that authentic assessment can build confidence and develop the students' grades, because it helps students see the value of their learning. However, we should be careful because authentic assessment doesn't automatically produce the confidence and grades. So if the task is too difficult, unclear and unsupported, So unclear and unsupported, students may feel anxious and may influence their confidence and performance negatively. So the teachers need to provide the scaffolding, example, practical opportunities, and formative feedback. And authentic assessment can improve engagement because students often find meaningful tasks more relevant than isolated exercise. So when students understand the purpose of a task, so they are more likely to invest more. So for example, holiday recount presentations give young learners reasons to use English to share their personal experience. So the task connects language learning with identity, memory, family, travel, and emotions. And the next, authentic assessment also give direct evidence of students' learning. So a teacher can see and hear what the students can do. In students' presentation, for example, the teachers can observe organizations, pronunciations, vocabulary, confidence, and responsiveness. So this evidence is useful for planning the next step in the teaching. Another example, after listening the students' recounts, so a teacher might notice that many students can sequence the events, but with past tense verbs. So the next lessons can then focus on past tense language in meaningful recount sentences. So in this way, assessment inform the instructions. The key message here is that authentic assessment is not only about grading, but it is about understanding, learning, and making better teaching decisions. Another consideration is authentic assessments can allow the students to demonstrate their unique abilities, lived experiences, interests, and social identities. This is very important because students do not all learn or express themselves in the same way. So some students may communicate well orally, but some may be strong visual designer. So in the holiday recount examples, students can choose personal event that matters to them. So one student may talk about visiting grandparents, another may talk about school trip, another may describe a family celebration. So this choice allows the students to bring own experience into the classroom while still meeting the common learning objectives. Yeah, these slides introduce a practical process. So developing authentic assessment can be organized into 4 steps. First, identify learning objectives, select an authentic task, identify the criteria, and create a rubric. So the first step is to identify learning objectives. So learning objectives are clear, specific, and statement that defines what students are expected to learn and be able to do by the end of a course. For the authentic assignment, learning objectives should align with the real-world skill, knowledge, and competencies. So they should also encourage higher order thinking where appropriate. Higher order thinking may include applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating, and reflecting. The second step is to select authentic tasks. So authentic task is a real-world challenge that requires students to apply knowledge and skills in practical and meaningful ways. To identify criteria. So criteria defines what success look like for the task. They should be specific, measurable, and aligned with the learning objectives. In the holiday recount task, for example, so possible criteria include a recount structure, English language use, presentations policy, and reflective insights. So these criteria help students understand expectations, and they also help the teachers assess more fairly. The last is to create a rubric. So describe level of performance for each criteria. This helps students understand the expectation and helps teacher provide consistent feedback. For the holiday recount presentation, so the rubric uses a child-friendly performance level here, as you can see here. So beginning, developing, achieving, and extending. So these levels are appropriate for primary school students because they describe the growth rather than simply labeling the student as successful and unsuccessful. So when designing the rubrics, the language should match with the age and experience level of the students. For primary school students, short and clear descriptions are the best, but for the older students, descriptor might be more detailed and analytical. Yeah. I'll go this so quickly, but so don't worry, guys. So we know that the authentic assessment has many benefits, but it's also required careful planning. First, teachers must consider students' education and experience level. So second, authenticity is a subject. What feel authentic is to one student or teacher might not feel authentic to another. So the third, teacher must manage complexity. Authentic tasks often include many components. Students might need to plan, collaborate, create, present, and reflect. The instructor role is very important in authentic assessment. So teachers are not simply judged at the end of the process. They are designers, facilitators, coach, model, and feedback provider. The students' ownership and choice are also important because authentic assessment becomes more meaningful when students have some responsibility and choice. The last one is formative feedback is another essential consideration. So students shouldn't receive feedback only after the final presentation. They need feedback during the process so they can improve before the final assessment. Yeah, those what I mentioned are what we need to consider to design the authentic assessment. But today, especially for technology, today's technology makes much easier for the teacher to design a lessons and assessment in creative, efficient, and engaging ways. So with the support of digital tools and artificial intelligence or AI in education, so teachers can quickly create learning activities, interactive talks, and authentic assessment that meet the needs for the diverse learners. These are the examples. So AI tools for education. So you can try to click this link. And AI tools for education can help teachers quickly design authentic assessment through simple prompts entered into platforms such as chatbots or AI assistants. As you can see here, this is the example prompt. Teachers can type a prompt into a chat box asking to create authentic assessment connected to a specific topic, your level, and learning outcomes. Then AI can then generate creative tasks, ideas, success criteria, differentiated activities, and even assessment rubric with seconds. Now, this is another example. So a teacher might ask AI to design authentic assessment for primary learning, recount, writing, and oral presentations. So the prompt could include your level, subject, learning objectives, student needs, available time, and desired output. So the more specific the prompt, the more useful response is likely to be. So this slide explains the benefits and the limitation of using AI in authentic assessment design. So one major benefit is that AI can save teacher planning time. So teachers often need to create task instructions, examples, rubrics, feedback statements, and differentiations, options, and reflection questions. AI can generate drafts of these materials so quickly. So by the time, so it can allow the teachers to spend more energy on meaningful teaching practice, such as supporting the students, giving feedback, adapting instructions, and building the relationship. So AI also can help with the personalization. For example, it can suggest easier or more challenging versions of the same task to provide vocabulary support for English language learners and generate the sentence starter. However, there are some important considerations here. So teachers still play an essential role in checking accuracy, ensuring cultural sensitivity, maintaining academic integrity, adapting tasks to students' needs, and providing the human judgment. So AI should support the teaching, but not replace teacher expertise. So for example, if AI suggests a holiday recount task that assumes all students travel overseas, and the teachers must adapt it to include students who stay home, or visited relatives, or attended a local event, or had a quiet holiday. So if AI generates a rubric, for example, with a language that is too advanced for primary students, so the teacher must simplify it. So the key message here that use AI to brainstorm, draft, and refine, but use teacher expertise to evaluate, adapt, and humanize the assessment. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Abu Nawas, PhD, for your insightful presentation. And I would like to give a little bit summary before we go to the Q&A session. And today, your presentation is very wonderful because you started with telling all of us here in the study program of elementary teacher education, the Faculty of Education, UNESA, about what is the authentic assessment. What really the authentic assessment is, and you divide it into two: authentic assessment in performance and also in product. And also, you later provide us the information and the knowledge about the 6 criteria and characteristics for being authentic. It's about the accuracy and the validity, and it should be demonstrated the learning, transfer of knowledge, metacognition, collaboration, and the last one is environment and tools. And also, you share to us about the benefits and the advantages of authentic assessment. So it will provide 5 benefits about self-efficacy and self-confidence, higher grades, engagement and retention, and it will also offer the direct providence and students diversity. And later, you also provide about the 4 steps for developing the authentic assessments. For sure, we start from the identification of the learning objectives, and also we also need to select the authentic task. So sometimes the tasks given by the lecturers or the teachers is like imaginary tasks. It's not the real and authentic task. So we should start with authentic project first before we go to the authentic assessment. And also the criteria, and the last one is the rubric, which is very important for evaluation and assessment. And also you provide the last information about considerations for authentic assessment, and there are 6 considerations. The first one for sure is the education and experience level of the students, and also the subjectivity, complexity, and also the role of the instructor, whether it's facilitator, the tutors, and also the students' ownership choice. And the last one is formative feedback. And preserve the true purpose of AA in fostering the deep and meaningful learning.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, authentic assessment and deep learning, they are strongly connected, right? And then from my understanding, either in Australia or in Australia and in Indonesia, so the most important thing is the teacher's knowledge itself. Because as I mentioned before, in implementing this authentic assessment, even though you adopt medical curriculum, or for example you adopting the Australian curriculum, but the most important thing is from the teachers. So as a teacher, as I mentioned before, in implementing authentic assessment, we do not need a very fancy classroom. For example, you can start by making them collaborative after they ask them to presenting. For example, in the large class, so yes, I have one research last month, examining the explicit teaching and authentic assessment between the large and the small classroom, and then the effect is the same. It depends on the teacher. For example, in the large classroom, so you as one of the authentic assessments is a collaboration run or presentation. So you can make them as a group. So you need to highlight that in implementing authentic assessment doesn't need to be. We don't need a very fancy classrooms. We don't need very good curriculum, but it's come from the teacher. How the teachers can manage their classrooms. So how the teachers can manage their class, and then how the teachers can relate the assessment into the students' real world problems, their real world life. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Abu, for your answers. So, Harveni, allow me to highlight some key terms. So, authentic assessments is related and connected with the class management, That's the first thing. And the second thing is also the teacher's strategy is very important here. So experience will say more later for sure. And the last one is it's very important to relate the study and the lesson, the materials with the students' real life. Okay, so we will go to the last questions, Mr. Abu, because we have some time limitation. And here sitting another beautiful student here beside me, also from the undergraduate study. Hopefully we will not deliver any more critical questions. Okay, you may deliver your questions.
Thank you. Thank you for the time and opportunity. My name is Naila Rizky Sakina, undergraduate student from Elementary School Teacher Education. One of the main Indonesian curriculum is focused on empowerment of characters such as toleration towards others. So my question is, how this authentic assessment will help teachers assess more on their characters' development, and what kind of approach that Mr. Abu Nawas suggests we should take? Thank you.
Okay, so about so I think it's really related what what I offer for the examples like recount text, because as I mentioned before, recount text give the students more engagement. For example, from the family, the identity, and then the personal life. So for myself, if you give me that task for me, so I will use the recount text, which means that the students are free to explain their personal life freely in front of. So while getting the students information about the personal life, they can also develop, or they can we can make the assessment more authentic.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Abu Nawas. I think we have reached the end of this third keynote session, because it's already 11:40 here. And before we close this session, I would like to say one more time, thank you very much for your time, or your
no worries, that's my pleasure.
And your insightful presentation. And from the study program, we would like to appreciate you with the token of appreciation by the certificate. So please, operator, can you show the certificate here? So this certificate will be presented to Abu Nawas PhD as speaker at the international webinar with the theme Authentic Assessment in Curriculum Reform, Practical Strategies for Classroom Teachers. And it's held by undergraduate, master and doctoral study program of Elementary Teacher Education, Faculty of Education, Surabaya State University on May 12, 2026, and it is signed by the Dean of the Faculty of Education, Professor Dr. Muhammad Nur Salim, Master of Science. So we'll take picture of this and documentation in 1, 2, and 3. Okay, thank you very much one more time, Mr. Abu Nawas, and we hope we can see you again in the future, either it is in Australia, in Adelaide, or Indonesia. For sure, we are very happy to invite you to UNESA. And also the best regards to our student Sabila Hikmah for bridging this event. And hopefully we will have more and more collaborations in the future. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Abu Nawas, PhD. And I will give this time back to the Master of Ceremony for the next agenda. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Abu Nawas, our speaker, and Mr. Riki Setiawan, our moderators, for the excellent discussion and valuable insights. And for the third session has concluded. Thank you for the engaging discussion and participation. And ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the closing session, We will now continue with the prize distribution for the 3 fastest participants who asked questions in each session. We truly appreciate the enthusiasm and active participation shown throughout today's webinar. To proceed with this session, we would like to invite Ms. Delvia Ikhlasia Rahman, SPD MA, to announce the selected participants and present the prizes. The time is yours.